Hi, welcome back to the Passion Caregiver. I've missed you. Specs missed you. He's missed doing the crunchies. Doesn't that make your day? So, gosh, how did you like hearing the story from a bunch of people instead of just me? In the next reading, you're going to get the same cast. It's going to be fun times again. Little sad information, but present it in a very entertaining fashion. So, it was a packed summer. I miss talking to you all. Now, here we are in October, almost at the end. And I went to record something new before I go visit the cousin Gina and the just calm down auntie. So, what also made me burn to get a recording done was my last visit with my primary care doctor. So I'm there, and she asked me if I had a power of attorney and if I was going to fill out a post form for a DNR. Holy crap! Damn! I was shocked. It's definitely easier to dish it out than to hear it back. Won't you agree? So, I walked out of that appointment thinking, I guess I'm closer to 65 than I want to be. And why wasn't my parents asked all these questions? Holy crap. My mom did prepare, but my dad and stepmom, it seemed different. And my stepfather never went to prepare. So mom was really good. Everyone else a little more loosey-goosey. So, I'm advocating for all this, but yet it unsettled me, that whole appointment. So let's see. I'm going to call this learning section How to Feel Less Lost. Oh, that was hard to say. Less lost. I packed so much info into the theater piece, I'm not sure what to add here. But you know me, I'm just going to talk and tell you some more ideas. So, how can we make it easier for our beloved seniors? I look back at the story and think, it is true that my mom drove herself across the street to the emergency room when she thought she was having a heart attack, but she did that to avoid paying the expensive copay. What a sad state of affairs. It is true that her cardiologist was the most proactive member of her care team. When she died, I left messages with all her specialists. He was the only one to call me back. It is true that there are cheaper ways to get home from a hospital than calling an ambulance service, but your loved one will wait a long time. Use technology. Call them a Lyft or Uber to pick them up. You can do that wherever you are in the country. That is the coolest thing about technology now. Use it. And you're going to hear that a lot. It is true metformin is very effective for diabetes, but it can give you GI distress like my mom had. It is true that even with the best intentions, things still can go south. It is true when my mom had her first heart attack, she texted her young friend. Her friend was 26 at the time. Mom was like 80. Foster those generational relationships. They're important. So she texted her young friend, I have and then it was the broken heart emoji. Like, that is great. It was this young woman that taught my mom how to text and use the phone and dictate and all that. And then here she is sending her, I have a little broken heart. I have heart problems. It is true that it's worth the effort to get your parent the same type of phone that you have so you can video chat with them in the easiest possible way. Here we go again. Technology is your friend. Use it to your advantage. Okay, I like this repetition. You may be tired of it already, but it is true that the night before my mother was admitted for her second heart attack, an advice nurse actually came to her apartment. That young woman, my mom's friend that she volunteered with, was there. And the nurse told them that my mom was okay and didn't need to go to the hospital. I'm not sure why we didn't ignore her and just go to the ER. Come on, as you know, it was literally across the street. Maybe mom was worried about the ER copay. It's not that much, but it's still extra money. So anyway, um, you know, people want to believe professionals, and I'm not nurse bashing. I'm just talking about how a very well organized scenario still didn't end up okay. We all did the best we could, and it still didn't turn out okay. And so it was weird. Recently, I was having chest pains and shortness of breath, and I asked my cardiologist, like, should I be worried? And he checked my heart and all that, and he goes, what you really need to be concerned about, and especially in women, it presents differently, is that general feeling of unease, that something just is not right in your body. And that is usually more of the sign of a heart attack than chest pain and shortness of breath. It's like that malaise, you can't put your finger on it. And that's what was going on with my mom that night. So it's crazy. Things get foggy. I can't remember, I was on the phone with them. So there's four of us, and we're all talking. And we're all talking about the symptoms, and yet we unintentionally made the incorrect decision. And you do your best, and things can still go south. Maybe this is what I should name this section. It is true, but. Say it with me. It is true, but. So I'm going to attempt to replicate the format of my first videos, which was 5 different teaching sections. So 1, what was the health issue? 2, advice. 3, legal/insurance. 4, support writing. And, I don't think it's 5. I think it's 6. Because then we have spiritual and grateful. Here we go. We'll just go with the flow. So section 1, what was the health issue? So for my mom, it was heart attack, stroke, anemia, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, delirium due to hospital syndrome, sundowning, and all the complications that can come with Parkinson's. With my dad, it was Parkinson's and delirium. I have some health issues, lupus, possible MS, and thyroid autoimmune. So there's like all these underlying things affect your thinking, how you're handling things, who to prioritize. Because sometimes, like, no matter what, you have to prioritize your own health before reaching out to anyone else. Here we are at the second section already, advice. Before you move your loved one, you need to know their finances. Nobody loves this aspect, but you need to sort out your living options. And all those administrators are going to be asking you the nosy questions. My Italian grandma would love this. She enjoyed making people uncomfortable by asking nosy things. And administrators, whoever you're going to call to help you sort this out, they're not trying to make you feel uneasy. They're trying to assess the situation so they can give their best advice. One might consult an elder care lawyer. One might call a place for mom that helps you with placement. One might talk to a social worker. Or one of the best things is talk to your friends. Where were your parents? And it doesn't matter that their parents might have been somewhere else in the country, because many of the facilities are operated by a couple different big corporations. So you kind of get the feel like, overall, is the organization okay? Can they retain workers? You want to talk to as many people as you can and get as many suggestions as you can. Once you hone down, maybe on 3, you can't go and visit everyone. I would say the biggest thing probably is proximity. You want to make sure that it's easy to get to your loved one, because if it's not easy, you're not going to be there to advocate. So I think proximity is and affordability are the 2 biggest things when you're looking at facilities for a loved one. So you go there and you visit intentionally. You do a surprise visit. You talk to residents, and if possible, talk to family members. If you see someone in the hall, just say, hey, do you have a minute? And people are happy to share info, whether it's good or bad. And, at least you have the facts to make decisions. Once we found the assisted living, I was in my element, back in the theater, stage manager that I was. I made a few desperate phone calls and people showed up. I'm there like, we have to take photos. We have to set it up just like it's a soundstage of her new life. This might be old news for some of you, but it never hurts to repeat it. Between delirium and memory loss or dementia, when you move your loved one, you should set the new space up as similar as you can to the previous place. It'll really help with the adjustment, and psychologically it will help them. So I was directing, take this, not that, was continually coming out of my mouth. Who wants to keep this? A donation run is needed. Who has the largest vehicle? These things look important, but I don't have time to sort through them right now. Can someone put them in storage so I can look at them later? All this is noted on my clipboard. While in my mom's apartment, calls from the folks at her new place. This doesn't fit. What should we do? Where do you want this? We might have even FaceTime to see the layout. Again, use technology to your advantage. All this can be overwhelming. Make it easy as you can. And all this is to say, pick a leader, a coordinator, someone who's going to keep track of all the moving pieces. And hey, you terrific leader, thank you for stepping up. It's not easy. And now you have to put all your pride aside and call whoever you can. The more the merrier. The more cars and people, the faster things will move along. Time is always of the essence. And terrific leader, if possible, have coffee or snacks or take everyone to lunch after. Foster that team spirit and positive vibes. Things are tough. Keep people inspired. Focus on the goal. Take good care of everyone's sanity. So, when you're cleaning the apartments out, you're going to find leftover drugs they don't take anymore, drugs that didn't work, whatever. Delegate someone you trust to dispose of these. Police stations have dump boxes, free option. Drugstores have locked dump boxes, free option. Or you can pay a fee to get a special mailer to dispose of old drugs properly. It is true. Here we are back on the repeat. I wasn't always as kind as I should have been. I switched my mom from certain doctors. If you do the same, write them a note on why. People won't change unless they realize how they come across, or like maybe they thought they were doing the best they could, but it didn't work out. So just explain. So next time they'll have more insight for another family. But give the feedback kindly, please. I have to learn that one. It is true that often you'll feel you're not making the right choice. Holy cows, is that true? Remember, you are doing your best, especially if you have kids, a job, and another set of parents to assist. You are doing your best. There's only one of you, and you can only do so much. Befriend the activities coordinator. The amazing woman at my mom's assisted living sent me photos regularly. She was a cheerleader that my mom needed in the beginning. Such a special woman, so special that she was poached and is now working where my father and stepmother live. Now she's part of our family. She knows all us kids and loved both my parents. The nurses, they are special. Develop a relationship. There's one head nurse. On the outside, it looked like we butted heads. But when my mom had that seizure, that nurse sat with her and whispered the things I would have said to my mom as they waited for the ambulance. She reassured her the dog would be taken care of. That's really all my mom wanted to know. The kids were adults, but the dog needed care. And this woman did follow through to make sure Chili was handled and taken care of. There's another head nurse, and she would read the hospital notes to me and tell me how to argue when they wanted to release my mom, but we didn't feel that she was ready yet. There's so many wonderful people in the field. Holy cows, they should get paid more. Buildings should be staffed more, but we always have to do the best with what we have. Okay, so, there's not one resident that loves wearing the "I've fallen but I can't get up" pendant. But urge your loved one to wear it, or at least put it on their walker or wheelchair. Call buttons are important. Unforeseen things happen, and you want to be able to get help. So one of the things that we discovered when I was moving my mom was that Parkinson's patients often fall out of bed. So when my mom was living independently at her apartment, she had, one of those bunk bed rails that kept her from falling onto the floor. But once you move to the facility, those aren't allowed. They're considered a legal restraint, as is over-medicating a resident. That is also considered an illegal restraint. So you got to brainstorm solutions. What they suggested was put pillows on the floor so if she fell, she would have a softer landing. Some residents had like a yoga mat on next to the bed. Yeah, luckily once my mom moved, I don't know whether it was a medication change, but I don't recall her falling out of bed like she did when she was independent. I do recall she had vision issues after the stroke, and sometimes she'd hit her head into a wall because she couldn't see as clearly temporarily. Woof. So, speaking of Parkinson's, my mom had a tremor, so she could not take care of her facial hair. Yes, fact after menopause, guys, hair's okay. Women, not so much. So, one time I arrived to visit and she looked like the bearded lady from Coney Island. Now, if that's what she wanted, it was fine. But it wasn't. She just couldn't see and couldn't manage to groom herself. Legally, apparently, the staff couldn't be a mother plucker. But the facility spoke to the hairdresser and she included a shave after the ladies' haircuts. See, brainstorm and you can figure out solutions together. Another Parkinson's syndrome that my mom had was anxiety. Holy cows. So I talked to the nurses about it, and what can we do? They suggested medicine, and we did do that. It made my mom's life better. But you have to weigh the side effects, but that is one thing. Parkinson's can give your loved one lots and lots of anxiety. For all the entrepreneurs out there, a good volunteer service would be for people to help elders without family preserve some of their items or assist them when they get moved to a facility. Here we are in the next section, legal/insurance. It is true that you will / are juggling a ton of balls. Yet remember to get on top of your loved one's bills. Most of the time, by the time you enter the scene, your elders' bills are just a mess and in arrears. And don't let insurance lapse, whether it's healthcare or car. Even if it doesn't look like your loved one can drive in the moment, it's expensive to cancel, then reinstate later. So keep it going for a little bit. Talk and see if you can take off comp and collision or make it lower temporarily. Late fees, holy cows, are going to eat away at savings. So use technology to put bills online. Some people love auto pay. I didn't do that because I always wanted to take the moment to look at the statement and make sure there weren't any errors on it. And then I paid online. You get the little email, your bill's ready. I preferred that to auto pay. Do whatever works for you. Because once a company takes your money, sometimes it's hard for them to give it back, or it takes a while. And if someone's living like, month to month, it's important. You don't want your money out there floating around. Keep track of everything you do. Download the bank statements. Keep the ones you find in their houses. If your elder runs out of money and needs to apply for Medicaid, the government will want to go back 5 years. Look at all the friggin' bank accounts, all the investments, if they have any, everything. And they're going to quiz you on what was this expenditure? What was that? Why'd they do that? And sometimes I just can't answer. I was like, I don't know. She was living independently. How am I supposed to know why she bought that? But you do your best. And sometimes when you're going to apply for Medicaid, it's helpful to hire a lawyer. You can do a consult before you actually hire someone. So think about all the options. If your loved one has investments, usually they're required to take a certain amount out each year. Become familiar with the rules. When you have a power of attorney, you can speak directly with someone at the investment companies. Some financial products you're able to cash out to help with assisted living, nursing homes, or care assistance. So my mom was supposed to be able, it was a hard one. We'll try that again. My mom was supposed to be able to take out funds to pay for her care. But unfortunately, the investment was run by a friggin' scammer. And there's a criminal case still going on against this jerk. And so she wasn't able to take money out to pay for her assisted living. No money, no how. It created such trauma for her because she worked hard and saved hard, and now it was locked up. It was frustrating. So one thing my mom's lawyer did do that I didn't realize until my mom had her stroke was the lawyer actually put it in the POA papers that us kids could decide on what was best for our mother and put her in assisted living if we thought that was best. Boy, my mom trusted us, or boy, she didn't read the small print. I think it was a little both. Of course, she trusted us, but when it came down to it, I think maybe she wasn't as happy with that. But I didn't even know that we had that ability until after we were already in the process. And we already had other people talking to her like, look, you just can't live independently anymore. This is what we're working on. And mom went with the flow once she realized the dog was going to go with her. And I understand all the resistance. Holy cows, it's big change. All that resistance is normal and natural. But as long as Chili was there, it's okay. And this information flows out of my mouth like a breeze, but I know it's hard on both sides. As a kid, it's hard to make these choices for your parents. And as a parent, it's hard to listen to your kid that they think they know what's right. I know it's a difficult journey. This is why I'm doing the videos, to hopefully you're going to learn and it's going to be a little easier. So speaking of funds, if your loved one or their spouse were active duty in the military, they could be entitled to a monthly payout to aid in the cost of assisted living. It's a long, arduous process, and they'll ask you more questions than my grandmother would, but it's worth it. My mom qualified through our stepdad, and holy cows, it really helped out. Thank you, Veterans Benefits. Here we are to another section. Support and writing. Someday, I want to do this multimedia event with text and music and crazy chatter. I saved all the text from the stroke experience and from much of the canine piece. Until then, I'm just going to share dollar store donuts in the comments. It's a little writing piece from each time I do these videos. And this one is featuring a story about my dad, but it occurred when mom was needing help, and maybe this isn't even the correct analogy, but my female friends have told me that eventually you block out all the pain of childbirth. So all this pain of helping the parents. It's just blended together. And I think my father's fall happened during the pandemic when vaccines weren't available yet. So not only were they in assisted living and at risk, they went to a hospital and were at risk, and then to a rehab center and at risk. So there's always this worry about if the virus was going to take them out. We lost so many elders. It's heartbreaking. And obviously during this crisis, I had writing friends, and I wrote these 3 theater pieces, which helped me process a lot of this. Here we are to the spiritual section. If your loved one is religious, call their place of worship and have volunteers come visit the leader and have the leader come pray with them. And don't be afraid of hospice. Just because your loved one is placed on it doesn't mean their time is up. But let's say it is. Being with someone at that moment of transition is such a meaningful experience. Grateful. Here we are. We're summing up the little video here. I'm so grateful to my friends. One of the benefits of helping my parents across the country was that when I had sleepless nights on the East Coast, West Coast friends were still up, available to be great listeners. One friend in particular is a night owl, so if it was 4:30 a.m. East Coast time, there's a good chance she was up 1:30 a.m. Portland time. And oh my goodness, I'm forever grateful to my mom's friend that she met when they were both volunteering at the hospital. This is the youngster from the beginning of this section. There are so many moments of gratefulness. Picking me up at the local train station so I didn't have to sort out how to get there to my mom's without a car. Picking me up directly at the airport. It's such a pain in the butt to drive to the Philadelphia airport. And then trekking me out to, suburbia, because by public transit, I don't know how many transfers there were. There were 2 to 3. One time she picked me up at the train station in the middle of nowhere and had hot food in the car waiting, and then drove me even further out to nowhere because there was no easy way to get to my father's and stepmother's facility. Eternally grateful. Foster friendships everywhere. Forever grateful that the family that took in Chili and are loving her now. Chili's still living her best life, basically 2 years after my mom has passed. They were there when my mom was alive. They're there for Chili now that my mom is gone. I'm grateful. And yes, I'm ranting a little bit, but this is so important. One day a sweet woman called me. She's a volunteer where my mom lived because her mom lived there too. She's become part of her family. Thankful for her, and my mom adored her like another daughter. I love that. So, one of the things that inspired me and kept me somewhat sane was keeping all the text and cute photos that friends sent me. It can seem small and silly, but trust me, it's not. Someone took a moment to think of you and send you positive energy. Embrace it. My calming stone never did seem to work. So, that's it for this time. Remember the mantra: like, subscribe, and share. And apparently there's a little bell icon that you press so you'll be notified when the next video drops. And meanwhile, let's see if Inspector will send us out on some good crunchies. I love that sound. Okay, see you next time. Have a wonderful day.